Welcome back to college football on ESPN, presented by Cars.com. Gators 14-0 after a one-half of play here at Williams-Brice Stadium in Columbia, South Carolina. And after you watch the first half, I'm really not sure how to rate either one of these teams so far.
Well, but there's one way to rate them, 14-0 for Florida, right?
True.
And it didn't look like they got much going, but they have enough tools on offense to manufacture some stuff against a kind of a struggling South Carolina defense. So we'll take a look at the AT&T strong performance, and even though it wasn't a beautiful performance by Treon Harris, the quarterback for Florida, it has led
as the tailback
to a
who's already scored
touchdown lead. Here, as he's reading to his right, he sees one. It's not there. He takes off. That's what the coaches are trying to get him to do now, using him a bit more in the run game here on a quarterback draw. They had one earlier in the game on a third down to pick up a first down. And then with the play fake, because now he's getting involved in the run game, and he's able to hit his former high school teammate Callaway for a big gain down the field. And then, of course, he gets helped out by Jordan Cronkrite, the freshman receiver, who comes back and takes the ball away from a South Carolina defender. So while it's not been pretty, it's still a 14-0 lead for the Gators.
And, of course, he had the big pick at the goal line late in the half that could have put them up 3 scores.
It's like the game last week against Vanderbilt. It wasn't pretty, but you know what it did?
Yes.
It clinched the SEC East. So the not pretty Gators continue.
Rashad Fenton is deep. The first time he touched the ball in a college game, he went 96 yards for a touchdown. Won't get a shot at this one. And here's Jerry Punch.
Mike spoke with Sean Elliott coming out of the locker room at halftime, South Carolina interim head coach, and asked him about the offense. He said, we've been a second-half team the last couple of weeks, he said, but we've got to make better decisions with the football, do a little bit better job blocking up front. He said, and defensively, we've got to get some pressure on the quarterback. We've got to get some hands and some helmets in Harris's face. We have got to pressure the Gator quarterback here in the second half.
Yeah, I'd be really surprised if we don't see a lot more blitzes by John Hoke, the co-defensive coordinator in his first year with Lorenzo Ward. Elliott last week told Hoke to pull the reins off in the second half against Tennessee, and they got a lot more pressure. So far, not much pressure up front.
Childs, the running back, he'll get the carry, picks only a couple of yards up on that run against a very stout Florida defense. And the best thing they do on defense is prevent people from scoring. They're 4th in the country in that department, allowing only 14.6 points a game. You can hang your hat on 14-6.
Well, with John Bullard able to play today, that's a very good player, Caleb Brantley, but that he's got his line mate next to him, and Bullard. It's a big deal for Florida. Guy wasn't expected to play.
Pressure on Orth, and they got him. Brian Cox Jr. His dad, the Falcons defensive line coach, a brilliant player in his own right in the NFL.
Working over the right tackle, the old arm swing move over Mason Zandy. And, of course, we reported earlier in the game, Alex McAllister out with what looks like a right foot or ankle injury. So,
back shoulder throw intended for Hayden Hurst, but he's out of bounds. Hurst, just starting his football career, has an unbelievable upside with his size and with his speed.
But another bad start for South Carolina, and another ball thrown out of bounds by Perry Orth. He's got to, if you're going to work the sidelines with the taller Hayden Hurst, that's something that Sean Elliott said they wanted Hurst more involved, but you got to keep that ball in play.
Kelly, the transfer from Florida Atlantic, will punt to the dangerous Callaway. Signals fair catch and makes it back to 33. Every college football Saturday, put one game on the big screen, another game on your computer, tablet, or smartphone. Use Watch ESPN. Just download the app or go to watchespn.com. Isn't it gorgeous here today? The fans would be happier, of course, with a little offense to get them back in this game, but this is just spectacular.
My first trip here to Williams-Brice Stadium, for whatever reason, just was never assigned a game here. It's a neat place.
Nice, isn't it?
Yeah. Feels cozy for 80+ thousand people.
Yes, it does. Treon Harris in the pistol, gives to Taylor. They've done a good job bottling up Taylor. The Spur linebacker T.J. Gurley with another tackle. Only 34 yards on 11 carries for Kelvin Taylor. That's 3.1 a pop. He averages 3.7 on the year. And Ed, as you pointed out earlier, has not been able to break many long ones this year.
If there is a rebuild process at Florida, it is on this side of the ball, quite obviously.
Harris out in the flat to his big tight end McGee. His third catch has a first down. Rico McWilliams takes him out of bounds.
McGee would be a nice addition to get going later in the year.
Yes,
as they
would.
get going. 6'6" guy. We actually saw him a few years ago help beat Penn State at Virginia. Was very good down around the goal line, and we've already seen some of the struggles at in the red zone because of the lack of the really good inside run game and not the accuracy of Will Greer at quarterback anymore. So getting a guy like McGee involved, especially near the end zone, could be key.
They have thrown to their tight ends quite a bit. I think a lot of that because they're smaller, they're shorter throws. This ball is tipped and intercepted. Picked off by Gerald Dixon. As that ball bounced from player to player, Harris was hit from the blind side, lost the ball, and maybe that's the break the South Carolina team needs. Marcavius Lewis hit him from behind and caused the fumble.
Yeah, you mentioned Lewis being one of the top junior college recruits coming in. And that ball bounced off of number 92, Gerald Dixon Jr., into the arms of his half-brother, just the plain old Gerald Dixon. Both sons of former great Gerald Dixon Sr. from here in South Carolina. So it goes from the junior college transfer Dixon to Dixon, and a big turnover for USC.
They can bring in Cooper to take the direct snap. Orth, the quarterback, goes to a slot. Cooper can throw, has 3 touchdown passes in his career, but he'll run this one. And Cooper will pick up 7. That's about the first time on first down they've done anything.
Well, and you can see why G.A. Mangus, the offensive play caller, of course, took over full time when Steve Spurrier stepped aside.
On the Florida sideline. That is their first warning.
Too many guys on the white stripe for Florida for the officials to work the field. But you can see why G.A. Mangus brings Pharoh Cooper into the backfield. I believe that is the longest play that they've had on first down during the game. 5 yards.
Little swing to Cooper, perfectly diagnosed and stopped. Incomplete. Brian Poole, the nickelback, read it from the get-go and was there just as the ball got there.
Poole was working Hayden Hurst, the former pitcher we've been talking about. He was the guy meant to block Poole, and Poole, well, he ran by the fastball there.
They need to reach the 33. This may be 4-down territory at this point. Pump fake by Orth, and then he's buried. Bullard, who was questionable coming in, just kept pushing the pocket.
Just impossible, I think, for an interim head coach right here to make the choice to go for it on 4th and long. But on the plus side of the field, this is unbelievably just Bullard as a bull rusher, just getting his hands inside. It's so hard to give help to an inside lineman. That was Will Sport being pushed back, but I think this is the right call here.
I do too.
Yeah, I mean, you've only had one snap on the plus side of the field. And I think that I was going to say that as an interim head coach, you've got nothing to lose. Why not go for it? But sometimes you go towards the more conservative. But I like the idea of South Carolina going for it here.
They have to use the timeout, however. We'll be back after this. Welcome back. You're watching the SEC on ESPN. And tonight on ABC, Saturday Night Football presented by Walmart has a huge Big 12 matchup. Undefeated number 6 Baylor against number 12 Oklahoma, 8 Eastern, as well as streaming live on Watch ESPN. The Bears have won the last 2 against the Sooners and 3 of the last 4. Playoff implications abound And we'll be talking about the playoffs a little more in just a minute here. After burning the timeout, they have decided to punt after all from the 44-yard line. Hargraves is inside the 10. Signals fair catch, makes it at the 8. 36-yard kick and no return. Time now to look at the college football playoff rankings, brought to you by Northwestern Mutual. What about this week's lineup?
Well, if you're a Florida fan, you're saying, how do we get there? Well, you just hold tight, because look at Alabama sitting there at number 2. They go through and get to the SEC championship game, and you win out. You beat them. Remember, the College Football Committee literally goes week by week. They don't look ahead. Well, at the end of the season, if they look at Florida and they would have beaten, say, a number 2 Alabama team in the SEC championship game, again, I mentioned earlier, I just don't see a scenario where a one-loss Florida is not in the playoffs. Now, are they good enough to be in there? I don't know, but they would have won enough to be considered, and I think be in.
Scarlett, the running back, crosses the 10, then pushed back.
And I think for Jim McElwain to be in this position is just astonishing. You know, we've seen Clemson, and they're the best team I've seen this year.
Me too.
We've seen Michigan State. We've seen Ohio State twice. If I were to have to pick between Ohio State and Clemson, I think they beat Florida by 10 or 14, but they haven't been beat by that. They have played in a tough league. They have one 7-point loss to LSU, and we'll have some incredibly big quality wins.
They hand it off to Brandon Powell. Sky Moore, the leading tackler for this club, may have gotten a face mask.
Personal foul, face mask, number 10 on the defense. 15-yard penalty, first down.
Would have been 3rd and 2, but it's an automatic first down.
And as Moore went out to make the tackle, just couldn't quite let go of the face mask of Powell. Powell, a guy that they're starting to get involved more and more ways, just trying to manufacture some offense. It's easy to say that Florida with this offense wouldn't be able to compete in that 4-man playoff or 4-team playoffs, but the truth is they play great defense, and they're starting to find some things that can work offensively.
Moore, who committed that penalty, leading South Carolina for the 3rd straight year in tackles. That hasn't been done here in over 20 years. He's a terrific performer at the weak side linebacker. Harris, plenty of room. He wants to keep it. And we check in with Adnan Virk.
All right, thank you very much, Mike. At the half, we showed you Dalvin Cook a little banged up, but he's back for Florida State, and they need him. They're down by 10 against NC State, but Cook to the rescue, at least here for the touchdown, so making things a little closer right now in Tallahassee. Florida State down by 3. Mike, back to you.
All right, Adnan, thanks very much. And Florida State, of course, will play Florida, one of their remaining games, on the 28th.
Go back to the Swamp for 2 in a row before the SEC championship game.
Taylor picks his way near the 40. They'll need about 2 yards for the first down.
Now things get interesting, though. What if Florida were to lose to Florida State, who has one of, I think, the best running back in the country in Dalvin Cook. So if you lose to them, you go with 2 losses in the SEC championship game, then you knock off Alabama. You've got 2 losses. Florida.
2 losses. I don't know if you can make it.
I don't think they get in at that point. But out of conference game with Florida State. Of course, South Carolina knows that feeling. They have Clemson at the end of the season every year. Both schools honoring their in-state rivalry, even though they are out of conference.
That would rankle a few feathers in the Southeastern Conference, wouldn't it?
Yes.
5-man rush. They don't get there. The pass underneath complete to DeMarcus Robinson. Still on his feet to midfield. He's got the first down. I mean, it would literally be unheard of for the SEC champion, widely considered, and I think just so justifiably, is the best conference in college football, for that champion not to go to the Final Four, even if there were 3-8 if they won the conference championship game.
Well, but we've been in the Big Ten. We've been in the Pac-12. I will say the parity, especially along the line of scrimmage, the size and ability of the athlete, especially on defense, I think it has started to catch up and get equal in places like the Big Ten to the SEC.
Underneath and complete. Even without a gun, Harris has been able to find a lot of guys underneath.
You know, that was really over the last decade of dominance for the SEC. What the difference was when you came here and you watched this game was how big and powerful and athletic their defensive linemen and their offensive linemen were. And you saw that in sprinkles in other leagues, other teams. But now we went and saw Indiana a couple times this year. They're big and powerful. Ohio State is as good on their defensive line as I've seen in a long time. So the rest of the country is starting, I think, to match the SEC at that important position.
Taylor, but I will say this. After watching LSU and Alabama last week, Alabama is still a step above anybody else. The guys they have at 350 are faster than the guys you have who are 290.
Give this guy a little while, though. Remember, Jim McElwain comes directly from, well, not directly. He went from Alabama as the offense coordinator to Colorado State, but he knows the blueprint. He's a terrific recruiter, has a great personality. The players love him. The guy makes sandwiches and soup in his office for his players just so he can have normal conversations, just so guys will come hang out. He's done a really terrific job getting buy-in from the entire team.
Taylor splits out a little bit, comes back to throw a block, and they go to the tight end. Jake McGee shakes one tackler, makes his fourth catch, and picks up another first down.
We had a nice chat with Jim McElwain about his background. Of course, he started as a player and a coach at Eastern Washington, and he talked about Dick Zorns. And during that time, I was at the University of Washington playing, and Dick Zorns and all of his staff, including Jim McElwain, would go visit Don James and the program that they ran at Washington, who began that term process. Then he went to work for Pat Hill, who taught him the run game, and then Nick Saban came full circle, former assistant under Don James, who really influenced how he runs a program.
Pressure coming, and another smart decision by Harris to just get rid of the ball.
And that full circle for Jim McElwain back to work for Nick Saban, and all the influence he had when he was getting to visit with Don James at Washington. He said you learn what's called the 18-month calendar for your program, where over an 18-month period, every single day is structured in what you're doing about the team, about recruiting, about nutrition, about training, everything that touches the game. And I think Alabama, of course, is really the gold standard across college football how to do that. And now Florida has a guy who understands that blueprint and I think has the wherewithal to pull it off.
2nd and 10, Powell drilled as he got to the line of scrimmage. Dante Sawyer nailed him, and it will be 3rd and long.
What Florida, you can say everything they're not on offense. You know what they've been today?
Time
ball
killers.
Hogs, yes. They are not playing fair. As we tell our 2 young kids, you have to share the ball. Well, Florida's not sharing today.
They're not sharing the clock.
They did not learn their lesson well in kindergarten. Remember, field goals, a big adventure here. So to go up 3 scores here, not a gimme here if you're Florida, because of the struggles in the field goal game.
Quarterback draw, Harris. He'll be stopped short, and a decision for Jim McElwain. Do you go to one of the struggling kickers? There's the dentist.
Well, you know, here's the disaster on a field goal is if it gets blocked in return. So a little surprise as Harden comes out. He's a guy who's had some struggles.
He's 4 out of 8. He kicked the game winner a week ago, which was a 43-yard field goal. He had missed 3 straight. This will be from 39. They held a 216-person tryout camp. And he just gets this inside the post. Good by Harden. Neil McGinnis, a dental student, won that tryout. He got 1 kick, a missed PAT, and it was back to Harden.
ESPN College Football, brought to you by Taco Bell's new Steak Boss Wraps and DirecTV. Call 1-800-DirecTV.
The South Carolina Military Museum, right here in Columbia, one of the largest National Guard museums in the country. That helicopter, the first one of its kind to come off the line in 1948. Steve Spurrier may be gone at South Carolina, but he is hardly forgotten. Still dominates the exterior of Williams-Brice Stadium, and yesterday they were updating his resume on the outside of the building.
Well, his resume includes the winningest coach in the history of South Carolina and Florida, a national championship at the University of Florida, along with his Heisman Trophy as a player, and his most impressive feat, ACC champions in 1989 as the head coach of Duke University. I think that one is the one that is actually the most sterling.
And number 2 in SEC wins to only Paul Bear Bryant. That's a remarkable career. Let's take a look at winning traditions driven by Goodyear. In 1990, South Carolina was in the middle of a down period, so local real estate developer Ed Robinson came up with a plan. He purchased 22 cabooses, which he turned into game day party trains called cockabooses. His attitude was not a better team than a better tailgate environment. Now, a cockaboose, which could have been purchased for $25,000 then, the asking price is now a cool $299, and you can't even sleep in it.
I bet that rule has been broken. That's my guess.
Desperate times for South Carolina here, down by 3 scores. Orth is flushed. On the run, throws it away. There was contact downfield, and a late flag comes. Hayden Hurst, the baseball player, was being trailed by Nick Washington. I don't think there was any way he was ever going to catch that pass, but it also looked like interference.
And the officials, the back judge and the side judge on that side, you can see them talking because clearly there was contact, at least in the lower body, between Nick Washington and Hurst. But I think Hurst at 6'6" may have been able to get a fingertip on it. I think they're probably talking about whether it was catchable or not. I think it was.
There are 2 fouls on the play. Pass interference on the defense. Personal foul, number 70 on the offense. Penalties offset. Replay, first down.
So they did call the interference. My take on this has always been it doesn't matter if it's overthrown. Pass interference is pass interference. And then not is called for a foul.
But if the ball is thrown, 15 or 20 yards over the head, they wouldn't call that. But it's in the range. It's in the range, so you call it. But then they get the personal foul on center Alan Knott. So something that would have gotten them across midfield or at midfield back to 1st and 10.
The running game has not been there for Brandon Wilds.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much more you're going to be able to run with down 3 scores with 4:28 ticking away in the third quarter. I'm not sure how many more times you can have 1-yard runs to Wilds.
Taven Bryan made that last stop for the Gators defense.
What a great story Bryan is. He's a kid from Casper, Wyoming.
After the play was over, unsportsmanlike conduct, number 70 on the offense, number 54 on the defense. Those penalties offset. That is the first unsportsmanlike conduct for number 70 and number 54.
And Alan Knott is on a roll.
Yeah, and Alan Knott is lucky that he didn't get called for a personal foul the last time, because if you get 2 personal fouls, you would be ejected. Check on the right side of the screen. Obviously Knott. Well, he was getting a little scrappy there with Jared Davis, but for Knott, very lucky that the first penalty he got was not.
Okay. That's his teammate, Mike Matulis, so he's not guilty of the second one.
Yeah, Alan Knott didn't look like he was doing much there to get a personal foul, so I'm glad that they changed that. But here for South Carolina, I mean, to say this has been a tough day offensively, 0.5 yards per rush.
Admittedly, this is a great Florida defensive unit.
Mike, just so you know, that's 1.5 feet.
I'll get it on the way home. I'll get out pencil and paper.
And it just went down.
Jordan Sherrod, who was hit for targeting last week and missed the first half, gets in on that stop. Now it's 3rd and very long, and this Gator defense today has only given up 3 yards on the ground and a scant 41 through the air. 43 total yards is a serious defensive number.
And this is an offense for South Carolina that was up to 432 yards per game. They've gone up almost 80 yards since this staff took over offensively, and there's a drop.
Adams should have had that ball. Orth hit him in stride, and he couldn't hold on. Adams hoping for a big game this week. He had a critical fumble against Tennessee a week ago, and now they'll have to kick it away.
Well, and unfortunately for South Carolina, sitting on 3 wins, they needed to go 3-0 down the stretch to become one of the 80 teams to go to bowl games this year. You heard that number right, 80.
That's a lot of teams.
Yeah, and without a win today, doesn't look like South Carolina.
Beautiful kick. Kelly with a rugby-style kick just killed it. 69 yards. But the Gators continue to dominate with that great defense, and they are up 17-0.
We'll get you back to your game momentarily, but first I'm Adnan Burke with the studio update. J.T. Barrett for Ohio State. He's back, and he's contributing. 6-yard touchdowns. The Buckeyes have the lead comfortably against Illinois, 14-3 on ABC. Back to Mike Patrick and Ed Cunningham.
Adnan, thank you very much. We have a 17-0 score here in Columbia. And the Gators and Treon Harris, their quarterback, have the ball back at their own 20. Cronkrite, the running back with the extra R in his name, is out there to start this series. And he will get the carry. Picks up about 5.
You really have to give a lot of credit. I mean, to win the SEC East in their first season, staff's first season, Jim McElwain had the battle cry, restore the order. Of course, Florida was dominant in the SEC East for so many years under Steve Spurrier and Urban Meyer. So they have restored the order, but to do it with this offensive line, this is a group that coming back from last year, there were 9 total starts. That means that of all the guys coming back, they had only started to combine 9 games coming into the season. So to manufacture an offensive line, they played so much better today than they did last week.
Pass overthrown, intended for Callaway.
And this is with David Sharp, the left tackle, battling a leg injury. They weren't sure if he was going to even be able to go. But they have really established a nice pocket all day last week against Vanderbilt. There were times in the second half where Harris wasn't even hitting his last step before he was taking off running. And today, even though the pass game hasn't been explosive, at least they've given him a nice pocket to work from.
And would you agree that right now their best offensive lineman is the freshman left guard, Martez Ivey?
He's a guy that they was super highly recruited and ultimately may play some tackle, but to get their best 5 on, they've slotted him in at left guard, and he is growing.
There's that counter action, and it's Cronkrite, and he's got a first down.
Boy, I'm not sure who took the worst hit here, as Cronkrite,
It's a toss-up.
Ended up following, but it's the guys in black you're trying to run through. Boy, that's dangerous as all get out. That was DeMarcus Robinson, and Robinson's head was down, and then he flew all the way back. That was obviously not on purpose by Cronkrite, but that's awfully dangerous to hit your star receiver that hard.
That was incoming. The way this game has gone, Florida has been able to control the ball, long drives, one after the other, and South Carolina, the last 5 times they've had the ball, they have not generated a first down in those 5 drives.
13 total offensive plays for South Carolina in their last 5 possessions. That math doesn't quite work out.
Doubled the time of possession, and only 44 yards given up by the Florida defense. They have been spectacularly good.
McElwain is making Nick Saban proud.
Yes, he is. Harris hit from behind, completed it to Jake McGee just as he was hit. McGee's 5th catch, Sky Moore, was attacking the quarterback, Treon Harris.
Yeah, and Harris got sandwiched. He delivers a strike, but he gets nailed right as he's throwing this ball and goes into the legs of his offensive lineman. very lucky as Sky Moore drives him into the ground. But Harris a little slow to get up. And we mentioned with Will Greer suspended, you'd go all the way down to a graduate transfer, Josh Grady, who's played very little quarterback at Vanderbilt, mostly played wide receiver. So you're going way down the depth chart if you lose this guy.
We should see him. He has had 1 pass and 2 runs all year long. Floated again, but right into the hands of Callaway. And Callaway so fluid. They say he may be the freshman wide receiver in the history of Gator football. And if he is, he's an unbelievable player.
Yeah, of course, Jacko S. Green and Percy Harvin and
had a few.
Callaway, yeah, he's going to end up with the true freshman receiving record here at Florida. Former high school teammates in Miami at Booker T. Washington. Of course, Treon was 1 year ahead of Callaway. Callaway, a true freshman this year. Harris, a true freshman who started 6 games last year at the end of the Will Muschamp era, went 4-2. So they were able to get Callaway to stick to a commitment to come play with his ex-teammate.
Florida's going to let the clock run out on the third quarter. Gators on cruise control right now. They're up 17-0 against South Carolina. And there is a penalty marker down. They haven't blown the whistle to end the third quarter yet. Play clock had plenty of time left on it.
False start on the offensive line. Penalty is 5 yards. Please reset the game clock to 2 seconds.
Well, that was so odd because the backs were already walking toward the sideline.
Yeah, the center looked like he maybe picked up the ball and dropped it. So
that is really a technical penalty, isn't
it? Okay. We still don't have to snap it if we're Florida.
And Jim McElwain is trying to say, there wasn't even a play. And they still haven't blown the whistle. Thank you. The third quarter mercifully has come to an end. 17-0 Gators. We'll be back in a moment.